that there is no separation between sex and gender.
This is just a lie. If somebody was born with a penis and they were put in a padded room from birth, do you think that they would just grow up to naturally like the color blue and want to have their hair cut short and wear suits? Like, do you think that that would just naturally happen?
I wouldn't say yes or no, because basically you just went back to saying that gender was what the stereotypical norms are of society and what is expected of men and women and how to dress and things like that. How can that person distinguish what man or woman is without any representation?
Thank you.
Without anybody showing them that.
Yes, exactly. So you're understanding what I'm saying. If somebody was put in a padded room from birth, how then would they know what their gender is if they had no exposure to the outside world and to general society? They wouldn't. That's because gender is socially constructed. Yes, you literally figured it out yourself.
No, I don't agree with that.
Whenever liberals say that gender is a social construct, they're confusing gender with gender roles. Gender roles are socially constructed, but gender itself is not socially constructed. There are biological and physiological differences of sexual dimorphism that draw a line of demarcation between men and women, and sex draws that biological line of demarcation, and gender is just used as a label to classify the differences between the sexual dimorphism between men and women, or in this case, male and female. Gender is a biological label. We call humans a human male a man, a human female a woman. We call a male elephant a bull. We call a female elephant a cow. We call a male horse a stallion, and we call a female horse a mare. Those are the two. All gender is a biological label that is used to classify the differences between the two sexes. So gender and sex is, in a way, it's interchangeable. It just adds more clarification between the two differences of sexual dimorphism between the two sexes. Like, even animals have a gender, and it's not socially constructed. The only thing that'll be socially constructed is the gender roles. They get gender roles confused with gender itself. Your gender doesn't change just because you take on a different gender role. If you're a man and you take on a female role, that doesn't make you a woman. Like, for example, money. Money is a social construct. But things that are biological in nature cannot be socially constructed. I actually heavily disagree with Hunter Avallone on this one. That doesn't prove that gender is a social construct. All that you're proving is the simple fact that if you take someone out of their natural habitat, all it's going to do is force them in a position to behave unnaturally outside of what it is that they would typically be accustomed to. But it wouldn't mean that gender in and of itself is socially constructed. You created something that was unnatural to take someone out of their natural habitat, to isolate them from civilization, to where that person doesn't know what a man or woman is because he's never been exposed to any type of gender social dynamic norms. And even so, the person who was a man, without him knowing it biologically, is going to have some sort of masculine inclination. He's going to have some sort of inclination to adopt more masculine traits than feminine, whether or not he knows it or not. Just because you don't have a knowledge of whether or not you are behaving in a masculine or feminine way, that doesn't mean that the notion of gender being socially constructed is a thing. That's like Tarzan being taken out of, human civilization and him being raised around apes, him being raised around gorillas his whole life. I mean, he's not going to act like a normal human being. He's a feral human because he adopts traits of gorillas because he's been raised around gorillas his whole life. But if you were to let nature take its natural course and him being raised by humans, he would have been normal. You are trying to manipulate something that is natural in human beings and isolate someone from society and then say, because he doesn't know what gender roles is, therefore it's socially constructed. It's just like a group of white people taking black people from Africa away from their homes, and having them come to America to learn the ways of American culture and shit. And it's like, well, these people, If they're around Americans enough, they're going to lose their original culture that they once had. But if left naturally by themselves, they would have lived life by their original culture. Even in the animal kingdom, their masculine and feminine roles in the animal kingdom, you're going to say that that's socially constructed when it is something that is biologically ingrained in them as animals to naturally do. And of course, if you took those animals away from their natural habitat and domesticated these animals, of course they would be acting different from the average animal because you raised those animals in captivity. You are socially constructing a scenario where you are removing people away from their natural way of life, uninterrupted, where you can purposefully create a scenario that's different just so you can say that what is taught to people naturally without any type of manipulation or force, that is a social construct, which it's not. There's male and female dichotomy in different cultures, in different races, even in the animal kingdom. And isolating a specific person away from that isn't going to change what that person biologically is, whether or not he knows it or not. Isolating a person from who they are doesn't change who they are. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.